He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Fascinating speech, wasn't it? Oh, I know you've heard one after another talk about it. But look, I'm the cleanup hitter. This is my slot. You know, yesterday we got word that Donald Trump was going to cave on the issue of Dreamers. Where did that come from? Well, it came from Donald Trump. He had lunch with a couple of the media types, Jake Tapper and so forth. It wasn't invented by anybody. It came from them, who got it from him. And I knew this to be the case. This is a 6 p.m. Eastern Time show. Trump is going to give his speech, the president, at 9 p.m. And I threw that out there for you because the White House monitors this show. We're one of the few conservative shows left standing. And you were furious. One caller after another. Remember that, Mr. Producer? You were ticked off. And they pulled it back. At least I couldn't discern any overt, clear commitment to it. Now, they've been flirting with this up to the time of the speech, but that wasn't the big news of the speech, because they were altering the speech, I'm told, as he was driving up the president to Capitol Hill. So I want to thank you. You are principled, you're intelligent, and you know right from wrong. You want the president to succeed, as do I. But you want him to succeed on the terms that he promised and on conservative terms. So I'm with you 100%. This is the difference between you and the Rockettes on TV and radio. This is the difference. Your reaction, I'm convinced, made a difference. So this wasn't manufactured by the media, which was talking about it all day. It was put out there by the president to see your reaction. And your reaction was thumbs down. We didn't have a single thumb up. It was thumbs down. Now, if I and you had been among the pom-poms and the Rockettes, that may not have happened. It's easy just to go along. Now, as for the speech, as I was taking notes, watching and listening, first things first. The Democrats are an appalling gaggle of losers. Just despicable. They conduct themselves like children. This is a republic. You win some elections, you lose some elections, but they can't tolerate that. They can't accept it. These clowns dressed in white. I was thinking of the 1924 Democrat convention at Madison Square Garden, called the Klan Fest. I'm surprised they weren't there with their hoods on. It's with the white. Oh, the suffrage movement. Oh, I see. Yeah, right. They're so brave. Nancy Pelosi looked like she had just ate a bad batch of clams. In a persistent state of constipation. Schumer looked like he usually does. Swarmy, snake oil salesman. But Trump really stepped it up, didn't he? His temperament was outstanding. His tone was outstanding. His speech was a real mix of very interesting things. Nothing unusual, nothing you didn't expect. But it was put together very, very nicely. It was terrific. And he touched a lot of conservative chords, didn't he? When it comes to the military, when it comes to the police, when it comes to securing the border. when it comes to taxes and regulations, when it comes to the court. Absolutely outstanding. And, of course, the liberals and the Democrats were furious. That they weren't furious because of his conservative positions. They weren't furious because of his conservative policies. They were furious because despite what the Rockettes and the pom-pom boys and girls say, because Donald Trump stole some of their issues. The Democrats used to be the party, at least self-proclaimed, of the blue-collar worker. And by that, I mean the private sector union worker. Trump is trying to steal that from them. The Democrat Party, when it came to new entitlements, was the party that was going to promote taxpayer-funded family leave. Donald Trump has stolen that issue from them. That's why they're furious. He's going after some of their constituency groups, frankly, with some of their liberal policies. $1 trillion in infrastructure spending. That's $1 trillion in infrastructure spending, if people do their research, on top of whatever infrastructure spending goes on now. It's an additional $1 trillion. Now, whether that occurs in 2 weeks or 20 years is of no consequence. That means there's a massive debt that's added to a massive debt. Family leave. A massive new entitlement without addressing the existing entitlements. And the Republicans were jumping up like clapping seals for every big spending proposal that was made. There was no effort to talk about slashing the debt. None. And yet the debt is the 800-pound gorilla. The debt is that which is going to smother the next generation and generations to come. And Republicans and conservatives don't seem to be concerned whatsoever. Paul Ryan, who's supposed to be some kind of a budget expert, a conservative, what have you. They mentioned family leave, which is a typical liberal objective, a massive liberal entitlement program that Republicans have blocked for decades. They're jumping up and applauding it. And so I think the speech was terrific in many regards. For the conservative aspects of the speech, and politically hijacking some of the Democrat key issues and trying to go after their constituents. Now, I don't purely analyze these things and pretend I'm above the fray and say, okay, now let's move on and all, No. No. I am thrilled with the increases in defense spending. As a matter of fact, I'm concerned it's not enough. It is effectively not a 10% increase, but a 3% increase. Some people have really taken a look at this. When you look at the increase over the sequestration, it's 10%, but the sequestration has been busted by Congress every year since 2013, so it is a 3%, effectively a 3% increase. I would argue that's not enough. Certainly better than what any Democrat wants in Congress, but it's not enough. It's just not. $1 trillion on infrastructure spending is another massive boondoggle. They like to say, well, that was under Obama. Yeah, but the money flows to the same people, flows to the states and localities. That's where it goes, for the most part. We shouldn't be so quick to support a $1 trillion spending bill. I know that Schumer has jumped all over this. He's thrilled about it. Hey, we already have a bill out there, he said. What's the problem? The president won't reach out to us. They're already there. And if they can, they'll add another $200, $300, $400 billion, right? What's $1 billion here and there? Family Leave Act. Any notion whatsoever how this is going to be paid for? Are you going to be taxed? How's this going to be dealt with? We get into these things, see, folks, Family Leave Act, another massive entitlement program, and we know for sure that people will abuse it. We have around $250 billion, depending on the estimates. Tom Coburn's used to be great at this when he was in the Senate, in government waste and fraud. Tell me, will the Family Leave Act pay for the family leave of illegal aliens? You better believe it will. Somehow, some way it will. So we have a right to ask, on behalf of our children and grandchildren, on behalf of generations yet born, this Congress, this Washington, D.C., when is this going to stop? How many more new entitlement programs are there going to be? How many more trillions of dollars? You know, I can remember when we didn't talk about trillions of dollars. We talked about billions of dollars. Now trillions of dollars, like it's no big deal. And if conservatives aren't going to object, and if Republicans in Congress aren't going to object, then it's not going to stop. I was asked by family members after the speech, what did I think about it? I said, this speech was a very, very good speech, and it will resonate with most Americans. Because of the conservative aspects of the speech and because of the packaging of the liberal policies. Massive spending on infrastructure, a massive new family leave, taxpayer-subsidized entitlement. These things wrapped in patriotic talk, pro-family talk, pro-American talk. No mention of Bernie Sanders. Even the disastrous trade proposal. The trade proposal that is Hooverite. The trade proposal that is Bernie Sanders-ite. It's packaged as pro-American, pro-working American, pro-union member, pro-middle class when it drives up the costs for everybody. And is another weight around the neck of the economy. And yet, the way it is positioned is as a nationalist, pro-American, patriotic objective. And if you disagree, you must support, what, Japan or Mexico or something like that. So he's outwitted the Democrats. He's outwitted the Democrats on their own issue. But here's the big point. He's outwitted the Republicans, too. Because now the Republicans support this. The Republicans are now the party of big centralized government. The Republicans are now the party of massive debt. The Republicans are now the party of new entitlements. It's an amazing thing to see. Now, just for me, there's way too much spending. There's way too much government. And I think the line that bothered me the worst, and I paraphrase, was when the president said, we can fix anything. No, we can't fix anything. The government can't fix anything. And we don't want the government to have the power to fix anything or try to fix everything. Then there's no end to it. That's what the left thinks. And that's what the left peddles. But I don't want you to misunderstand. It was a very effective speech. I think it was very damning of the Democrats and to the Democrats. I think the media couldn't believe it because they have such contempt and disregard for Donald Trump. On the things where Donald Trump, which is 70 to 75% of them, wants to advance conservative causes, he was extremely effective in explaining it. But he was also extremely effective in advancing these big liberal policies. And maybe that's what the American people want, you know. Maybe that's what the American people want, and maybe that's what the Republican Party has become. So I'm not one of these people who trash the guy. I'm impressed with Trump. I'm impressed with a lot that he's done. But I also know who his advisors are. I also know what their agenda is. I also know their ideology, and I also know their influence and what they're trying to peddle. I just call them as I see them. I didn't hear a single thing last night from Republican or Democrat. I didn't hear a single thing today from Republican or Democrat members of Congress. about the debt. So what are we going to have, a spending spree? How's this going to work exactly? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I think the president has boxed the Democrats in a way that I don't know how they get out. They had the absolutely wrong reaction to his victory in his inauguration. They moved further left. And so what Trump has done, the president has done, is he has taken further steps to try and win over more of the Democrat base. I'm not talking about the base of left-wing kooks. I'm talking about labor and so forth. Not labor leaders, the rank and file. In doing so, he has, in many respects, abandoned fiscal conservatism. He's abandoned right to work. He's abandoned trade, all of which are detrimental to the country, I think, or certainly to the economy. But from a political perspective, he's boxed in the Democrats. Well, where are the Democrats going to go? And this is why there's this big battle over immigration. Because the Democrats need to import more Democrats. Even the unions need to import more Democrats. Because many of their members have had enough with what's going on in this country. That's one of the reasons there's a big battle over immigration. It's more political than anything else. I told you at the opening of this program that you're principled, educated. I don't mean formal education. I mean you educate yourself. And you know right from wrong. I think one of the differences between my show and the shows where they just cheerlead and pom-pom dance and Rockettes and all the rest of it is I don't play you. I respect you. I respect your intelligence. I know your eyes are wide open. I know this stuff really interests you and it affects your life. So I don't position you or manipulate you. We'll be right back.
811.
5 years ago today, Andrew Breitbart passed away. Now, Andrew Breitbart and I, we had a fun time together. Such an easygoing guy, but he was committed to conservatism. Absolutely 100%. And he couldn't stand the media either. And he believed in citizen media. And later, he would create his website, Breitbart. I just want people to know there was a flesh and blood human being before there was that website, and that he founded that website. The last time I saw Andrew, I was with my daughter Lauren, and we were at an Americans for Prosperity event. I believe it was the December, I could be off a month, before the March in which he passed away. And he spoke before me. And man, was that a hard act to follow. He took a couple of the big cookies. I mean, these cookies look like pancakes. Out of the room, we were waiting behind the stage, and they brought him out, and he used them as props, and he was hilarious. He had a wonderful sense of humor, but you wouldn't underestimate his intelligence or his motivation. It's a remarkable young man. And he's greatly missed, as a matter of fact. He's greatly missed. He would call me out of the blue sometimes very late at night. He was West Coast. Obviously, I'm not. I'm East Coast. When he was battling it out with certain people, asking me legal questions, the agriculture department thing really was wearing him down. We spent a lot of time on that. I had him on the program to talk about it. You remember Sherrod. But Mr. Producer has some of the discussion, some of the interview, I think it was in 2011, when he was on my show, talking about his background, how he went from being a liberal to a conservative, talking about his book. It's actually quite fascinating. So in the third hour, we're going to, at least 2 segments, we will play that interview of Andrew Breitbart, who, as I say, is greatly missed and was a warrior for conservatism. Absolute 100%. I really don't think he'd buy this nationalism stuff, but that's just me. At least not based on what I knew of him in our discussions, which were sometimes extensive, by the way. Just a really, really good guy. So my takeaway from the speech is it was a terrific speech in some respects, if not many respects. I think it absolutely resonated with the American people, or certainly a large segment of the American people. I think much of the media were stunned because they have created a caricature of Trump that is not true. I think Trump really stepped up his game and gave an outstanding speech, both in style and temperament and sense of humor and so forth. And the speech itself was brilliant. It had conservative themes and principles, and even the liberal themes. Massive spending on infrastructure, massive new entitlement program, the Bernie Sanders trade policies, even those were brilliantly spun or wrapped in patriotism, Americanism, family values, and so forth. And that latter reason is why I believe the Democrats are so furious today, or so perplexed, confounded. Wait a minute, those are our issues. Wait a minute, that's how we get the blue-collar vote. Wait a minute. Yeah, well, they've just been outdone. But then there are some of us who look at this from a policy perspective, and I am scared to death of this debt, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a boring subject. I really do. I know it's hard for people to get their head around this, but the fact of the matter is the day's coming. It destroys societies. And I can't just sit here and say, okay, great, we're going to extend the purple line of the metro in Washington, D.C., and add a few more bucks to the Denver expansion of their airport and subsidize this. No. That's got to stop. No more excuses. I've heard them all. Backbenches are filled with excuses. 80% of the federal budget today, 80% goes to entitlements. You're going to create a new entitlement? By the way, that excludes the military, that excludes national security, that excludes immigration, that excludes everything else. 80%. And because the debt is getting so big so fast, once the Fed, and the Fed starts to raise interest rates, a bigger and bigger percentage of the federal budget goes to paying interest on the debt. So this becomes cumulative, and it becomes smothering, and it threatens the very society we live in. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody. Because they've created it. No entitlement reforms, nothing on the debt, more massive infrastructure spending. We're going to build America by spending more money. No, you build America by unleashing the economy. And I don't think more government spending and borrowing, more government centralized decision-making on trade and protectionism and so forth, another massive entitlement program is going to be so easily offset with tax cuts and regulatory reform. It'd be better if we had tax cuts and regulatory reform and give the people a breather. Give the American people a breather. But it was remarkable watching Mike Pence and Paul Ryan, who used to be two of the most conservative junior members of the House of Representatives, jumping up and down, applauding big government. I was stunned. I really was. But I am happy in many respects. Yes, I break this down by issue. And we analyze it intelligently, by substance, by politics, the effect on the economy, the effect on the Democrats, and so forth. I'm just very, very pleased for law enforcement, for the military, for ICE, because it's so obvious that Hillary Clinton would have been so debilitating and degrading to them, whereas Donald Trump honestly loves them. I'm convinced of it. He honestly does. And that moment last night with the widow in the gallery and the 2.5-minute standing ovation was heart-wrenching. If tears weren't flowing down your cheeks, then you don't have a heart. You really don't. And the widows of those 2 police officers who were murdered by an illegal alien. Heartbreaking. And the gentleman whose son had such a wonderful future, who is fighting like heck to change the laws so this doesn't happen to anybody else's child. Heartbreaking. Now compare those folks to the people the Democrats brought in the gallery. Illegal aliens, among others. If the Democrat Party wants to be the party of foreigners who are in this country illegally, then let them be. If the Democrat Party wants to be the party that doesn't believe in securing the border, but believes in allowing refugees from some of the most dangerous places on the planet to come into the country and get due process rights, then let them be. If the Democrat Party wants to be the party against law enforcement and for the criminal, then let them be. If the Democrat Party wants to be the party for activist judges, then let them be. I've been reading today that this is the end of the Democrat Party. That is stupid. It's not the end of the Democrat Party. They own the bureaucracy. They own the courts. Democrat Party's not going anywhere. But the Democrat Party's doing severe damage to itself for the next election cycle. That's a fact. It's a long way off. I honestly believe they've taken the wrong approach here. Rather than try and fight back and get some of their customary support, their usual constituents, they're surrendering them. You know what's interesting? We talked about this years ago, that the Democrats have picked the radical environmentalists against the coal miners, the steel workers, the oil rig workers, assembly line workers, and that if the Republicans would figure out a way to build a wedge between the two, they would start to win elections. We can go back and pull that tape. There's no point. There's no point. My caution, my frustration is not to win them back with liberal, massive government policies. Win them back by unleashing the economy. Win the Reagan Democrats the way Reagan won the Reagan Democrats. And he didn't just win 80,000 of them in 3 states. He won millions and millions of them in 50 states. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Hillsdale College. Now there's a college. President Larry R. Now there's a president. What a stupendous school. You know, if you're like most folks, you hate taking tests and quizzes. I'll bet you still get stomach aches at the thought of them. Am I right? Well, stay with me now. There's a quiz I want you to take at levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com. Now, I know you out there, Levinites, you're great Americans. Yep, and you're wicked smart, too. So Hillsdale College is going to challenge you, just like they do their students, to see what you really know about the Supreme Court. And this is going to be a lot of fun. A fine jurist has been nominated to be the next justice and is up for the Senate confirmation. So it's the perfect time to think about these things and see what you know about how the Supreme Court affects your life. Go to levinforhillsdale.com. That's Levin for Hillsdale.com. This is the last week to test your knowledge with the quiz and get the free pocket constitution just for trying. I guarantee that some of the answers will surprise you. The quiz, the pocket constitution, everything you learned from Hillsdale will be yours for free as always. Take the quiz and then call my show and let me know how you did. That could be fun. Levin for Hillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com. Now, I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to do this. And I haven't alerted my family or Mr. Producer. I will not be here Friday. Everything is fine. But, you know, when you have heart disease, they got to check things from time to time. So I will be cathed, is what they call it, just to make sure the heart is clear and there's no artery problems or anything like that. I'm certain it's perfectly fine. So Bongino will be filling in for me on Friday. I don't want to take any calls about it or anything else. It's just the way it is. And people out there who have this, they know. It's not dangerous, it's not life-threatening, but now and then you got to get it done. So I'm going to get it done, and it'll be Friday. And the reason I decided Friday is in case I have to stay over another day, I'm only missing one day of radio. I just want you to know how important you are to me personally. This audience, especially. We had a hell of a primary season. I've called it as I've seen it. I've not abandoned my principles, and I never will. We have young men and young women who fight, they go to war, they put their lives on the line for principle, for country, for family. I mean, by God, if they can do it in a non-violent, non-military, non-shooting environment, we should be able to do it too. You're not sabotaging a president when you support that president, and yet when you question those areas in which you disagree with the president. You're not sabotaging the president when you supported a different candidate in the primary, but ultimately backed the president in the general election in order to defeat somebody like Hillary Clinton. You folks have stuck with me, and I have stuck with you every step of the way. I come under vicious attack. It really doesn't bother me, but people send me links to different websites and so forth. The things people say and that they would never say if you could attach their face and name, if you could actually identify them, is just so appalling and in some cases unconscionable. Because you disagree with them. That's what the left does. That's what the Stalinists do. That's not what we should be doing. We can dust ourselves off after these battles and plow ahead. But we want the same thing, unlike the left. We don't want to fundamentally transform America. We want to save what's left of America, turn things around, and make sure our children and our children's children enjoy liberty and a high lifestyle that we've enjoyed and our parents and grandparents have enjoyed. And we want a governmental system that respects us, doesn't lord over us, and try to control every detail and minutiae activity in our lives. We want a government to stay out of our bathrooms. Isn't that funny? They used to say they wanted it to stay out of the bedroom. Well, apparently they don't mind the government being in the bathroom. This is what we want. You know, we want to retain a society, maintain a society that respects religious liberty and faith, that respects the family, that respects the individual. That's what we all want. Now, for the most part, we agree on how to get there. We agree on our principles, our values. We embrace our traditions and our customs. But there are people out there, there's a political party out there, there are professions, as in the media, academia, Hollywood, and so forth. Broadly, there are exceptions, that reject everything we believe in, that reject everything this country stands for. Those are the people we're at war with. Not each other. Those are the people we're at war with. But to my detractors, I say, I am never going to change. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. Nothing. I have thought about life a long time. I've thought about this country a long time. What makes it so special and unique in all of human history. And yes, life. The very short time we're here on Earth. It's a tiny piece of time. And even the other day I was thinking, it's remarkable how our brains work, how we're able to reason. We live our lives each day, and yet we know one day we're not going to be here. Animals don't know that. Insects don't know that. But we know that. And that's why life is so precious. That's why life is so precious. So don't compromise your principles for anyone, or for anything, or for any reason. You don't have to. You can disagree with people, but don't surrender your heart and soul. When you're on your deathbed one day, you don't want to think, geez, why didn't I stand up to this stuff? Why did I compromise? All right, I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. This is Hour 2. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. You know, be curious to know get your input. We're not going to spend all evening on this, about what I've said, or even more, the speech last night, also the Democrats' conduct, the media's reaction. I'm interested in what you have to say. Peter, Fairfax, Virginia, the great WMAL. Go.
Mark, what an honor to speak with you. I didn't think I would get through.
Thank you.
First off, thank you so much for being consistent. I've been listening for about 10 years. And who needs super beats when you've got Mark Levin to get your blood flowing about the real issues?
Wow, thank you.
Oh, I mean, I voted for Ted Cruz. I even voted for Ron Paul. Don't hate me for that. But it was a campaign of emotion. It was a campaign of making America great without real issues. The debt is one of the biggest things, and that's what concerns me as a dad.
Well, let me slow you down. You have to be pleased with certainly with the number of things Trump is proposing and pushing for, right?
I am, absolutely, and I support him as my president. But I am going to be writing him and my representatives continually, as I've been doing already, to make sure these guys stay on the ball. It's getting out of control, and it's compounding. It's getting worse and worse, and then we're throwing more to this.
Let's be honest, neither party wants to deal with the debt. Neither one. Neither party wants to deal with the entitlements. Neither one. And until you deal with the debt and entitlements, I just pray 10 years from now, I don't know how we're going to deal with this.
Well, and I'll let you go, but and as they say on NPR, I'll take my answer off the air. Could you help and explain unfunded liabilities to me?
Yes, I can.
And I would appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Unfunded liabilities are liabilities the federal government commits to in the out years. And those are liabilities that the federal government doesn't reveal. And we've had a number of financial experts and economists and professors who've testified over the years before Congress, several of whom have warned about unfunded liabilities. So it's the government's commitment to certain entitlements and spending out in the out years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. And the fact of the matter is the government can't meet those commitments. The government cannot meet those commitments. So 100 years from now, America is going to be a different place. Maybe it's 50 years from now, but America is going to be a different place. And I just want to put my marker down that I and most of you have said over and over and over again, this needs to be addressed. Nobody's going to remember some bridge some extension of some subway, some useless rail system. Nobody's going to remember any of that. Nobody. When this comes due. And you can't know exactly when it's going to come due. It's like the housing bubble we had. Nobody knew exactly when that was going to occur. But this will make the housing bubble look like a joke. Mo, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, well familiar with it. On the Mark Levin app. Go ahead.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yes.
I agree with you. The debt is a huge, huge issue. But I do think there's an incentive. The reason that he has to offer a Family Leave Act, if you're going to push out all the illegals, which he's proposing to do eventually, your population is going to be in decline, like what's happening in Europe. You need an incentive to keep your population growing. I think giving a family the option of, hey, I can.
So you think people are going to have children for the purpose of getting a family leave subsidy for several months?
No, but I think it'll help. I think it'll help people when.
I think it's irrelevant. I think what it's going to do is drain the Treasury more, raise taxes more, create a new wasteful entitlement where about a quarter of the people on it are ripping off the system, undermine personal responsibility. It seems to me if you're going to have a child, you need to be thinking about that. Your family needs to help care for you and your child, your spouse or your significant other or what have you. And all of a sudden now the government's involved in it. You know, throughout human history, we've had children, right?
Correct.
And yet throughout human history, we haven't had a Family Leave Act. Now, how is that? How did man and woman cope? Now, this is bad in every single way, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for your call. Let us continue. Kevin, Asheville, North Carolina, Sirius Satellite. How are you?
Fine, Mark. I feel like I'm the only one with this opinion, but I didn't care for the speech at all. I thought it was a campaign speech with not a great deal of specificity. He's promised enough already that will keep him busy for the first 4 years. I want to see him do something and stop talking about it.
Well, a couple things on that. A speech like this typically doesn't get into all the particulars. I remember when Bill Clinton used to do that, and everybody's eyes, they rolled over in their heads and rolled up into their heads, and that's not really the meaning of a speech like this. I disagree with that. I think the speech was effective. I think it resonated. I think the reaction demonstrates that. On the other hand, I think there's some issues in there that he raised that are problematic. And I think for what were formerly conservative TV and radio hosts to tell us how wonderful all this is because the Democrats don't know what to do with themselves really is extremely superficial. It's just extremely superficial. But to me, it was nothing like his campaign speeches. It was excellent temperament. I mean, rational, even in areas where I disagreed with it, and I think effective.
Well, it was better than his campaign speech, and it's interesting that you bring up Bill Clinton, where he was the first president that I'm aware of that really never stopped campaigning throughout his entire term. And I don't want to see Trump go down that same road. Now, I didn't support him. I was a Cruz supporter also, but I do want him to do well.
Who did you vote for in the general?
Johnson.
Johnson, okay. All right, thanks for your call. I don't have a problem. You voted for Johnson, but let's not pretend that you would ever support Trump, right? Let's not pretend you would ever support Trump, because to me, in this election, it was crucial that we defeat Hillary Clinton for so many reasons. And Johnson, to me, that was just a throwaway vote. People disagree with me. I don't see how you can, but there you are. So if the Johnson people had had a bigger showing in some of these states, it could be that we'd have a President Hillary Clinton. Anthony, Atlantic City, New Jersey, my old stomping ground, the great WPGG. Go.
Yes, Mark. So glad to talk to you again. One thing I noticed about the speech, as soon as Trump mentioned victims of immigrant crime, a lot of the Democrats started hooting and booing. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. If they want to be the party not only of illegal immigrants, but criminal illegal immigrants, well, then go ahead.
Yeah, I was so offended by that. It's ridiculous. And another thing, I don't want to belabor a point, but you were kind of scaring me with the way you were talking. I have heart disease myself.
All right, I don't want to talk about it. I'm fine. It's just a check. I'm just telling you the truth why I'm not going to be here Friday. It's okay. It's okay. I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I don't want to mislead you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to be fine. Let's go to, but thank you. Thank you very, very much. Kathy, Sierra Madre, California, the Mark Levin app. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark. I liked the 75 to 80% that I heard, and I was a Cruz gal, but I did not like the 20 to 30% that I also heard, which is what you've said before: the border taxes, tariffs, the $1 trillion boondoggle, and especially the Obamacare. I was very uncomfortable with that. Why? They said they're going to make something better. Well, that sounds like the government's going to make something better.
Let me explain to me. Let me explain to people what you're saying and why you're right. And I overlooked that, and I shouldn't have. Paul Ryan and the Republicans and Mitch McConnell and the Republicans want to give what they call tax credits, but they're not really tax credits. You get a credit, but you get more than that. You get a payment, so that the government will step in depending on your income level and so forth. You'll get a tax credit, and then they will credit you the amount, not by you taking off your taxes, because theoretically you don't earn enough. They're going to actually pay you the amount of the credit. This is another welfare program. It'll cost more than Obamacare. This is their idea of repeal and replace. And unfortunately, President Trump, getting into the weeds, gave his tip of the hat to it, and I saw Paul Ryan when he did that with a big smile on his face and whispering to Pence. The conservatives in the House and the Senate, the Freedom Caucus, Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and others are objecting to this. They're saying, what are you doing? Another massive entitlement that will be completely out of control? We can't afford this. How are we going to do this? So you're exactly right, and I mentioned this, and let me suggest to you, this hasn't been discussed all day, has it?
No, it hasn't.
No, because get the Democrats. Just get them, right?
Mark, can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing that really bothered me, he didn't go into enough about the debt, and it was like a missed teachable
Well, he didn't go
moment.
into the debt at all, as far as I could tell, because they're not going to do anything about it.
But the other thing that really bothered me was he was putting into their categories again, we're going to do so much for the blacks and Latinos. He could have said, for all Americans. I mean, what happens to...
All right, let's not pick him to pieces here. I think it was actually quite a good speech. I really do. I think it was quite a good speech, but we have some policy disagreements here. And they're not, they're not being addressed. And so-called conservative talk radio isn't conservative talk radio anymore. There's some conservative hosts, and they talk about outsiders in the establishment. You want to talk about outsiders in establishment. If you support massive family leave entitlement spending, if you support massive infrastructure spending, if you support this phony Obamacare so-called repeal, if you support a Bernie Sanders trades deal, well, who exactly are the rhinos in the establishment types at this point? Not you and me. All right, thanks for your call, my friend. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
President Trump should be very, very proud of what he did last night. Very, very proud of what he did last night. Even with some of my and perhaps your disagreements. He never said he was a solid conservative. That's why I didn't back him in the Republican primaries. I backed the number one solid conservative. But he should be very proud of what he did on so many levels, really, that I've already discussed in the last, hour and a half? And he has gone over the head of the media. That's effectively what he did. He went over the head of the media in giving the speech. Spoke directly to the American people. The Democrats who had gathered had their own designs, had their own objectives, and they looked like fools. Absolutely stupid. Absolutely stupid. And he has convinced hitherto conservative members of Congress, hitherto conservative talk show hosts, hitherto conservative TV hosts, to abandon some of their own principles in supporting some of his agenda, the non-conservative parts. That's a remarkable achievement, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big deal. They haven't moved him. He's moved them. I see this man as a remarkable man for reasons slightly different than everybody else, I guess. Look what he's achieved. Look what he's achieved. So, yes, there's a lot to do. Yes, you got to do more than executive orders. Yes, he needs to lead these buffoons in Congress to advance, I hope, what are mostly conservative agenda items, but what are clearly also big spending, big government items. But he's going to have to lead because these Republicans in leadership in the House and the Senate are really quite weak. And McConnell's worse than that. He's diabolical, in my humble opinion. In my humble opinion. You know, unlike some who look at this and they disagree maybe with Trump from the right and so forth, I don't hate the guy. I like the guy. When he used to call me, nice as can be, very charismatic. He's the guy you saw last night. That's who he is. That's the real Trump. You don't become a billionaire in business if you're a goofball. You just don't. Well, no, that's not true. We got a bunch of liberal goofball billionaires out there. But you know what I mean. I can't wait till the last hour. We're going to play some of my interview, and I had many, but one in particular of Andrew Breitbart on the 5th year anniversary of his passing. So you could hear, particularly those of you who are young, who exactly he was. He's solid conservative. David, Freeport, Florida, the great WYOO. Go.
Yes, Mark, it's such an honor to talk to you. I'm a little nervous, but
don't be nervous. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Last night I listened to the speech, and I really enjoyed it. And when he got to the part about the woman's leave, my jaw kind of dropped. And today I was driving down the road, and I was thinking, well, what if my employee, who's a female, she took the leave and I had to pay her?
By the way, it's not just female. The husband can too.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, if that happened, it would break my company. I think this would be worse than Obamacare. And what would keep them from having baby after baby after baby? I mean, nobody could sustain anything like that, obviously.
Well, I don't think that they would have baby after baby after baby, but I mean, let's just do it this way. If it increases the cost of hiring somebody, and on top of that you have a phony rhino Obamacare, just think about what's happened in the last decade then. You have this massive health care expense, if they're not going to do what they need to do on Obamacare, and I don't think they are. Now you're going to have a massive family leave expense. How do they think this is going to increase employment and competition? They say they want to compete with foreign governments and foreign countries and so forth. This is crazy. It just is. We don't need more government. We don't need more spending. We need to undo some of that which has already been done. And I don't know why this is controversial among conservatives or nationalists or populists or agrarians. Thanks for your call, sir. The speech last night, in many ways, was distinctly not Jacksonian in the terms of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson believed in devolving power to the states. He believed in states' rights. He did not believe in a central bank. He destroyed the central bank. He eliminated it. You didn't hear much of that last night. You heard about infrastructure spending along the New Deal and Franklin Roosevelt. So I don't know why they keep saying they're Jacksonian, other than they keep calling themselves nationalists. But if they're going to push for this infrastructure spending, this $1 trillion, you might as well go ahead and hang Franklin Roosevelt's photo, too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I shall return. You know, the IRS reports that $2.24 billion was paid for fraudulent tax refund claims in 2016. Criminals steal or purchase your W-2 data and use it to file a return in your name. Once you submit your tax forms, the IRS notifies you of the duplicate return and the fraud is discovered. Protect yourself this tax season by filing early and don't respond to emails or calls asking for your tax ID. Identity theft is America's fastest growing crime. It happens when thieves use your information to pretend they're you. They can buy things on your credit card and liquidate your bank accounts. LifeLock scans hundreds of millions of transactions every second. Now, if they detect your information, they send you an alert. If you have a problem, a U.S.-based agent will work to fix it. I have LifeLock. My parents have LifeLock for this exact reason. Now, no one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But LifeLock is the very best identity theft protection available anywhere. Membership starts at $9.99 a month. That's it, plus applicable taxes. So go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Use promo code Levin. That's Levin, so you can get 10% off your LifeLock membership. Visit LifeLock.com. Save 10% now with promo code Levin. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let's go to John, Ashburn, Virginia, the great WMAL. Yes, John.
Mark, how are you? It's a great honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
You know, I just wanted to say that I thought the speech was just spectacular. His delivery was flawless. The items that he referred to was just right on the money. And I was just shocked at how muted the Democrats were. I thought they were just spanked. And I was thinking, as a business person, if then it was a big business meeting and you saw that reaction from that half of the crowd, you'd be thinking, folks, get with the program. I mean, we're trying to get something done here.
Oh, yeah. But these are ideologues. They'd rather burn down the place than get something done. You understand what I'm saying?
That's their job. And the guy truly is a great communicator, and he's going to go down as one of the best. I thought it was just wonderful. I was very impressed. I voted for him. I love him.
All right, John. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Don, Dallas, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
Hey, Mark, you're a great patriot. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, sir.
Just wanted to go in, the family tax credits, you know, you just said that they're a new entitlement creating a mess. We lived without them all these years, and I feel the same way about Obamacare. I mean, why are we going to replace it? I mean, it's a victory for the liberals that we allow them to, sit back and watch us try to recreate their law. Why don't we just repeal it?
Well, look where we are. Look where we are on this, with almost no criticism whatsoever. The Republicans are not going to repeal Obamacare. They're going to pretend to repeal it, and they're going to replace it with another bad idea. They all jumped up and applauded when the speech came to the issue of paid family leave. That was the phrase, paid family leave. There really isn't a political party right now that wants to deal with the debt and the entitlements. In fact, both political parties want to create a new entitlement. And I think this is a disaster. Another disaster. They will not address reality. And there you have it.
To me, I don't get it.
Well, I get it in this sense. Politics is about getting votes and appealing to people. It's not necessarily about doing the hard things. And, I need some of these outsiders to get very serious about this debt and get working on it.
If these, senators and congressmen, were really jumping on it, they could create legislation that if the problem is that, well, we're worried about people who have pre-existing conditions. We're worried about, policies being different amounts for different people. You could create a few rules that would allow free market to correct this and allow insurance companies to correct this rather than having government try to fix something that it doesn't have any business doing.
We are destroying the health care system for people who have pre-existing conditions and didn't buy health care. We're destroying the health care system for parents who want their kids up to 26 years old to be on their health plan. And we're never going to come out from under. Now, maybe there are different ways to deal with pre-existing conditions. We used to have state funds where the states would put aside funds to help people with pre-existing conditions who chose not to buy health care or could not buy health care. But to destroy the entire system, in other words, to have the tail wagging the dog, is never going to work. It's just never going to work. And the Republicans now, while campaigning every election cycle on repealing every syllable of Obamacare, don't want to repeal every syllable of Obamacare. Now, you want to hear this? Upset people? Neither does Trump. That's where we are. That's what's going on. All right, my friend, thank you for your call. Let's go to Phil, Burbank, California, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Mark, it's a great honor to talk to you, and I'm going to tell you right now real quick because I know your time is of the essence. I'm a Mark Levin convert. I used to listen to the show. I've listened to it for 5 years, ever since Sean Hannity got you an elliptical for your birthday. And I listened to it.
By the way, never use that damn thing either. But anyway, go right ahead.
But I listened to you because I started off it was almost like comedy radio because I go, who's this guy going to blow a cork on the radio? And from then on, every day I've listened to you as much as I can, and I want you to know that. I'm a Republican now, and I was a Reagan Democrat, a very conservative Democrat, but I want you to know that you changed me, and for the last 5 years. And I've learned more from you. I've learned more from you in 3 hours than any quarter in college I ever, and I just want you to know that.
Aren't you kind?
Well, I mean, I watched the speech last night. I loved it. I loved watching those Democrats in their white T-shirts sitting on their hands, and I loved it. Trump did a great job. They hate it, and they must be just crawling, trying to figure out their next move because they can't seem to win. The market was supposed to take a dump, and it went up 300 and some points. It's all good. But
yeah, very good. Keep an eye on that market, though, apart from Trump and the Democrats and everything else. At some point, those things do come down.
That might happen. But most importantly, I love your show. I love you. You're just a brilliant guy. And
well, thank you. By the way, don't hang up. We're going to give you CRTV. Anybody that calls me a brilliant guy, I got to give him something.
I have it already.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I love the set. I just couldn't figure out who the girl was in the middle on the Founding Fathers. I go, who's the lady?
It's not a lady.
In the picture.
It's John Locke.
Oh, God.
I know, but it's John Locke. Yeah.
Okay, but
all right, man. I appreciate it. Be well, and God bless, and thanks for all those kind words. Jamie, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, the great WSAU. Go.
Thank you, Mark, for being just a consistent conservative. I've been so frustrated for 20 years. I used to go to Dave Obey town hall meetings. And
oh, my Lord, what a doofus that guy was.
He was 7th District in central Wisconsin, and tell him, hey, you're putting our children's children in debt, and he would not listen. He'd go, we agree to disagree. But that was my biggest frustration.
By the way, who represents your district now?
It used to be Lumberjack. Who's Lumberjack?
Well, was it Democrat or Republican?
It's a Democrat now. They redrew the district. It's Ron Kine now in central Wisconsin, and whoever defeated Obey, it was him for a little while. Sean.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right, go right ahead.
And so the thing that I loved about the speech, and the reason I voted for Trump, I'm a Ted Cruz guy, but the reason I voted for Trump was the Supreme Court, because that's going to set the tone for the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the only thing keeping the tide of liberalism, probably, is if Hillary would have had all these appointments, we were toast. But thankfully,
I agree with you. Can you imagine if she were president? I mean, we'd all be depressed staring at our loafers.
Yeah, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, hopefully she retires and Trump can get 2 on there.
She just said she's hanging on for dear life.
Well.
All right, my friend. I appreciate your call. No, you're quite right. But isn't it scary that the Supreme Court has this kind of power? Isn't it scary you're one election away from absolute disaster? I mean, this is what's wrong. We have a republic here. It's supposed to be everlasting. Our principles are supposed to be everlasting, and yet we sit here on the edge of our seats wondering what's going to happen each election, because if they win, how far they're going to drag us into the abyss. And then the courts, we're one away from this side or the other. It's just incredible. Those of us who love liberty, We're always one justice away or one election away from losing a hell of a lot more of it. All right. Trey, Columbus, Texas, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
All right, Mark, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
I thought the speech was great last night, and it just makes me think right now with the majority Senate and majority Congress Republicans and the governorships, you know, when they passed the Obamacare and Nancy Pelosi and all, you just have to pass the bill to see what's in it. I feel like some of that stuff was kind of shoved down our throat. And with the majority now, I think it's our turn to push the conservative agenda to the max. Second, you know, with all the Democrats sitting and wearing the white, it just makes it, I think it just proves the Democrats, they're all about symbolism, and there's really never any substance. And when their ideas and all that hit the pavement of the real life, they kind of crumbles. And so with all the protests
you
and
see,
all that,
let me just tell you this. There's a period here after this speech of euphoria among conservatives and Republicans. The Democrat Party's dead, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, they're boxed in right now. But this is a temporary condition. They run the bureaucracy, and they run the courts, and they will win elections. Maybe not in the next 2, 4, 6, 8 years, but they will win elections. They are not dead. And their ideology persists. It persists within the institutions of government. Our philosophy does not. And they are resolute. They're not going anywhere. They're not dead. They're going through a tough period now because Trump has boxed them in, quite frankly. But they're not dead and gone. And I hope people understand this. And you're quite right about the conservative agenda. By God, it's time to push it, and push it in every single direction. But they're not going to. If you're going to spend another $1 trillion on infrastructure, if you're going to create another entitlement, if you're not going to address existing entitlements, if you're not going to address the debt, well, I mean, then what? I mean, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Columbus, Texas, we appreciate it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
To sit down the other day and talk with Senator Ted Cruz at CPAC, as you know, and we had a great discussion on the bright future of conservatism in America. It was wonderful meeting so many fans, so many of you out there, young and old, and your support for what we're doing here on Levin TV is inspiring us. The mainstream media, the big libs, they're pushing liberal talking points like never before. They'll never change. But CRTV, Conservative Review TV, is changing the way conservatives watch TV. We're offering shows of substance, shows where you're getting not just entertainment but education, consistent, solid, conservative programming. Every day we're bringing you the best and the brightest in the conservative media. We're adding new shows all the time, and new platforms are expanding as well. Now, if you still haven't signed up, I want you to try this out. For a limited time, you can get a free 7-day trial. A free 7-day trial to all of our programming. Louder with Crowder, he is terrific. He is hilarious. He is solid. Our buddy Michelle Malkin, she is terrific, and she is solid. Absolutely outstanding. And, of course, Levin TV. Today we did episode number 228 in 1 year. I promised you I'd do around 200 shows. Well, we overpromise. Excuse me, we overperform. And I think you've liked most of what we've been doing. I hope you'll continue. So you'll get access to every episode of every show. See if you like it. No long-term commitment. So give us a call right now, 844-LEVIN-TV, 844-LEVIN-TV. That's crtv.com or call 844-LEVIN-TV. Start your free trial immediately. And our wonderful customer service folks are there, ready to serve you. And it really is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to join us. I hope you will. Kyle, Colorado Springs, the great KVOR. How may I help you?
Hey, I just had to make a quick comment. Watching the speech last night, I was actually very pleasantly surprised. Like you've been saying, I agree with most of what he's saying. Some stuff I just blown away by. But there was a reaction from a friend of mine that I had in high school, and we're still friends on Facebook, but he recently has become Mr. Agnostic and Mr. Hardcore Liberal, and he loves floating that he's a Democrat. And it was when they were honoring the Navy SEAL who was killed, and the camera showed tons of Democrats literally still sitting in their chairs, a couple clapping, but a couple still sitting on their hands. And he actually literally with his phone took a picture and put it on Facebook and was telling everybody, I'm truly embarrassed to have ever considered myself a Democrat. This is not my party. And it proves that they're still so out of touch. They don't know why they lost the election. They don't know why their people are turning on them. And it's so obvious how much they detest anything that's different from them, that literally even, brainwashed millennial kids who've been fed crap from college and stuff, that even they are starting to wake up and go, what the heck do these people think they're doing?
Can you imagine being a liberal Democrat, one of these leaders in Congress? You wake up every day trying to figure out ways to trash the country. You trash the military, you trash the police, you trash the Constitution, you trash capitalism, you trash our border, you just trash. I mean, really, what's the end game with these people?
I don't think they have one. I
don't think so either. It's just constant.
Their way.
But I'll tell you what it is. It's tyranny in the end, isn't it?
That's a very good word for it, sir.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. You take care. In the end, that's where we go with this, with the left. We go to tyranny. Elma, Bedford, Ohio. We could do a whole show on the Mark Levin app here. On the Mark Levin app, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you tonight?
Okay.
Okay. I would like to say I just enjoyed the speech. I was pleasantly surprised, like the other gentleman was, that he actually controlled himself through the speech. But I didn't care for some of the things he said. The paid leave, I don't agree with that at all. If you're going to have children, they're your responsibility, not someone else's and not the government's. And I really wish that if he's going to do an infrastructure thing, which it seems like he's been on doing, that one of his first items would be protect our grid, our electrical grid.
Oh, that's an excellent point, and that doesn't even cost that much. It's like $3 to $4 billion.
Right. That should be our first thing. If that goes, all this other
everything
stuff,
goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. So
that's an excellent point, Elma.
President Obama mentioned that at the time when he was running for office and being elected. I was home I had a medical problem, but anyhow, I was home, so I got to listen to a lot of him. And he mentioned it one time, and I thought, oh, finally. But, of course, he wasn't going to do any of the things that he said he was going to do with his stimulus. But I think the grid should be the first thing. And then, we don't need to gussy up our airports.
I agree. You want to gussy up airports? Well, then those cities and those communities can go ahead and float bonds and do it. I mean, the states and localities are already spending a fortune. People are already going deeply in debt. It's just one layer of government on top of the other. Leave us alone. Get off our backs. Let us keep our money. Just give the private sector a breather, for God's sakes. A special hour coming next. You won't want to miss it. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here, our final hour of the evening. Our number is 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. As I told you, this is the 5th anniversary of the passing of Andrew Breitbart. And we decided to pull up at least some of the discussion I had with him about 6 years ago, actually. And it was about him growing up as first a liberal, then becoming a conservative, talks about the Tea Party movement. I want you to check this out. I found it very intriguing as I look back on his life. Cut 20, go. Andrew Breitbart is a friend of mine, and I have to say, he has made a huge difference in the shortest period of time than anybody I've ever seen. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
Wow, I love you, Mark Levin. Thank you very much.
Well, you're a very kind gentleman. I want people to know that. And I love your father-in-law, too. Tell everybody who that is.
Orson Bean. I hit the jackpot.
He's a great guy, and I appreciate him very much. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's jump into this. You were a huge Hollywood lib. You became a conservative.
That was
a very
dope.
interesting story.
Be honest. I was a dope.
Oh, tell everybody. Go ahead.
Oh, I was a default cultural liberal, grew up in OJ's Brentwood. At one point, I actually delivered pizza and made a living. But for the most part, I was just a default cultural lib, went to movies, went to parties, and just went along with what I thought was the right political course. I didn't know what conservatism was. It was never presented to me. And then when I graduated from college, my dad said, "It's over." And I said, "What do you mean by it's over?" He says, "We're not paying for it anymore." And I had to buy my first pair of shoes, and that was my first step towards realizing human nature and how conservatism is in line with human nature, and that my utopian, entitlement-minded existence ended. I started listening to talk radio, believe it or not, when I was delivering scripts for Hollywood producers, and I realized that conservatism had been deprived of me by all of the cultural institutions. Not a cent of it in Hollywood, not a cent of it during my academic experiences, well, my party experiences in New Orleans at Tulane as an American Studies degree. And I started to voraciously take in conservative thought, and it was as if I had come in from the desert, and there was just nonstop Evian water around me. And once I realized that I'd been deprived of this, I felt like I needed to go on a massive crusade to teach people what they're missing.
Now, you were listening to Rush, right? And about how old were you?
23, 24 years old. It all started when I tuned into the Clarence Thomas hearings, rooting for the media narrative to take down Clarence Thomas. And so when Dan Rather and Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings aligned themselves with the National Organization for Women, and the NAACP sat on its hands as people like Howard Metzenbaum, Joe Biden, and Punchline, the Edward Kennedy, attacked this man based upon the most feeble argument that he was a serial sexual harasser. I went from wishing to take this guy down, to go along with the media narrative, to starting to throw my shoes at the television set, saying, what has this good man done? And the thing that drove me the craziest was I could tell, even as a liberal at the time, that the underlying pretense of this debate was the abortion issue. And when they started to invade his own privacy, trying to investigate, personal aspects of his life that only a private investigator could find, I thought that this hypocrisy was too much to handle. That didn't mean that I realized, wow, I'm a conservative, but it opened my eyes to something. How is it that the NAACP wasn't protecting this man? I knew the rules of political correctness. It only took perspective, and that was within a year, Bill Clinton, the definition of sexual harassment, actually the third definition in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, when that juxtaposition, he became the standard bearer of the Democratic Party a year after the Year of the Woman, and in which I believe Anita Hill was in every bumper sticker in West Los Angeles. I realized that this contradiction meant something far greater than the abortion debate.
This is Andrew Breitbart. He's got a great new book out called Righteous Indignation. Now, Andrew, how did you get involved in the Internet?
Well, I also was an agnostic, and this is an interesting thing. I grew up as a Reformed Jew on the west side of L.A., so even at my temple, the rabbi supported Jesse Jackson, during his Town stuff. I mean, it's a bizarro world. And what was the question? I can't.
How did you get involved in the Internet?
Oh, that's right. I was agnostic driving down the street in West Los Angeles, and I looked up to the sky when I was wayward, didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, and I said, God, please give me something to do. I want to be passionate about something. I don't want to work on a sitcom. I don't want to work on a dumb comedy show. I want to do something I believe in, and there was nothing that I really wanted to do. And within a month, I met Matt Drudge and the internet, and what I saw as the future that was basically the people's media, that there's a revolution that started with Rush Limbaugh on talk radio that became an internet revolution, where if Katie Couric and the rest of them aren't going to cover the news, if they're not going to allow for us to be well informed, then we're going to start doing it ourselves. And so the internet changed my world in around 1995, and I went from wayward and liberal to being not just conservative, but quite frankly, activist conservative.
And you're now a big target of the left. What's that feel like?
I used to fear it. I think that anybody fears Alinsky-style attacks. And I think that the message of my book is that which you fear can be the most invigorating thing in the world. I think that people like you and Rush Limbaugh and Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann, Alan West, all are teaching people that they can't kill you with their Alinsky language, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia. In fact, our standing up to them is starting to get people to say, I want in on this action. And I think that it's not just a revolution against the mainstream media and the liberal political class. I think it's a revolution against the Republican, class that's the go along to get along in the Beltway.
It's quite brilliant, wasn't he? I'm speaking live now. He really was. And a way of communicating that was exceptional. Here's our second and final segment of my interview with Andrew Breitbart. It's April 19, 2011. Go ahead. You've really taken to the Tea Party movement, and the Tea Party movement's really taken to you. Tell us that story and how you got involved in that.
Well, I was invited to my first Tea Party by a woman. I say that because I found out that the Tea Party is run by women, that men in this country have sort of become eunuchs, that they're afraid of being called names, and so the women have led the Tea Party movement. And I was invited to my first one at the off stage. It was like the bad stage at Lollapalooza. It was Santa Ana. It wasn't Santa Monica. It was Santa Ana. And I went down there and I did what I do, and I defended the Tea Party against the scurrilous accusations of the media of that day. That day, Contessa Brewer from MSNBC talked about the Tea Party being racist by using a photo of a man holding a gun, but it cut off his head. An intrepid blogger found out that the head that was cut off was the head of a black man. How could the Tea Party be used as an example of racism when the person that they're using had his head cut off and the person's black? And I went up there and I said, beware, Tea Party. The mainstream media is going to try and destroy you. And I started to defend the Tea Party from Tea Party to Tea Party, whereas most people were going there to talk about, the Constitution and fiscal responsibility. I went out there and I fought my fight. As a matter of fact, I felt like Rain Man. I'd go Tea Party to Tea Party saying, beware the media, beware the media. I fought them on the N-word, and nobody will play these videos. You remember the day before Obamacare was passed, Congressman Carson Lewis walked down the Cannon House steps and claimed that a mob of 400 called them the N-word 15 times by 15 people. I shut them up when I offered $100,000 for evidence that it was said once, not 15 times. Upon shutting them up, the Associated Press, Jesse Washington was the writer, said the absence of video does not prove that it didn't happen, which motivated me even further. And I found 4 videos of them walking down the steps unobstructed with Caucasian Congressman John Shadegg walking behind them. It did not happen. I've defended the Tea Party. The Tea Party has been righteous. It's been the most peaceful protest movement in the history of the United States, and it's been falsely maligned by the Democrat media complex, which is the natural alliance of the mainstream media and the Democratic Party. And if they're not going to play fair, then my goal is to destroy it.
Now, speaking of that, by the way, I'm talking to Andrew Breitbart. The book is Righteous Indignation. It's on marklevinshow.com. Let's get it up on my social sites, too, guys. You can get it on Amazon. It's a great book. Now, you say destroy them. Where do you see the big media, which isn't as big, say 20, 30 years from now?
I have no idea. I wouldn't have a mortgage and 2 car payments if I could see that far into the future. Yes. But I know that watching Katie Couric get fired means that we're doing the right thing, and that I'm not against the fact that there is a CBS Nightly News. I just don't like the way that it's played now. I don't have a problem with the New York Times. I don't like the way that I see it now. And I think that what's happened is that average citizens, sick of acting as checks and balance against the mainstream media, have said, look, I may be a lawyer, I may be a chef, I may be an actor or a director, but if they're not going to do it, I'm going to start doing it myself. And that is what the great threat has become to the mainstream media, is that average citizens armed with video cameras, flip cams, have started to videotape things in order to prove that the mainstream media is not telling the truth. And those have been our great victories. Hannah Giles and James O'Keefe took down Acorn as a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old with a $1,400 budget. The barrier of entry into being a mainstream media player has become negligible, and this is a true media revolution that we're experiencing right now.
You ever have threats made against you?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Publicly and privately.
Yeah. And people try and shut you down and intimidate you all the time?
Yeah. In fact, the journalism that we've done at my big sites, which is very citizen journalism driven, it's not just me. It's a bunch of, it's like the Little Rascals, basically. We care about this country and we try and, do things this way. We're attacked all the time. I'm attacked all the time. I have Color of Change, a group that was created by Acorn and Van Jones, 2 groups that we vanquished. We got rid of Van Jones at the White House because we vetted him, and Acorn was vanquished by those videos. They created an organization to try and get me kicked off of media. Every time I go on media or I'm announced to be on media, they try and kick me off. ABC News acquiesced. The Huffington Post, rimshot, I didn't care, kicked me off of the front page. But I'm trying to expose the totalitarian tactics, especially when it comes to issues of speech, that the left wants to employ. So the more they try and shut me down, the more they're proving my point.
All right, my brother. The book is Righteous Indignation. It is a terrific book. I think a lot of you will enjoy it, particularly in the Tea Party movement, by Andrew Breitbart. Keep up the good work, my friend, and give us some of your sites. What are some of your websites?
BigGovernment.com, Big Journalism, Big Hollywood, Big Peace, Breitbart.tv, and Breitbart.com. One day I'll put them together into one easy URL.
And I'm back live, and listening to that for the first time in almost 6 years is fascinating to me. And my friend is very, very badly missed. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Whose husband died in Yemen. And all the spouses and parents and siblings and children of the great men and women who died in these conflicts, I want to thank them with all my heart. And to watch her last night, as I say, if you didn't have tears coming down your cheeks, then I don't get it. And to hear the left attack her and so forth is just absolutely disgusting. And we need to keep this in mind. We have our fellow citizens, younger than most of us, in these horrific places. These horrific places. And they're there right now, and they are trying to do what their president wants them to do, trying to fight on behalf of our country. And they're trying in a heroic way to save people they don't even know, to protect people they don't even know. But that's what we do as Americans. When we see barbarians grab little girls off the street and rape them, or lop the heads off of old men, or burn people alive, well, we Americans get pissed off now, don't we? And I believe we finally have a president of the United States who gets it. And prior to this, we did not. No, every battle's not our battle. We're well aware of that. But every battle's not our battle, too. That is, it doesn't mean that as a matter of ideology that we stand by and watch as horror occurs. I don't know about you, but I can't do that in my personal life. Most of you can't either. And I want to thank the men and women of the United States military who've been abused for 8 years. Things are going to change. The men and women who are vets. Many like their health care in the Veterans Administration, but many don't. And that definitely needs to be addressed. And it's a priority of this president, so let's hope it is. And while I'm at it, the two wonderful widows and the daughter who were up there in the gallery, their fathers, police officers, who were murdered in cold blood by an illegal alien, we want to thank you, too, all you police officers. It looks like your day has finally come. Your day has finally come. You can come out of the wilderness now. I'll be right back.
Liberty's voice, Mark Levin. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
I understand Krispy Kreme Christie wants to do a sports program. Is that right, Mr. Producer? Wants to be a sports broadcaster. Now, when I look at this guy, I think he's the furthest thing from any sport, you know? Maybe he'll do radio coverage of sumo wrestling. I don't know. You want to hear something really freaky? I just saw this. It's out today. What is this? Fox News. Beau Biden's widow. Remember Beau Biden tragically died of brain cancer? Joe and Joe Biden's son. Beau Biden's widow having an affair with his brother. So, excuse me? The widow of Joe Biden's late son, Beau Biden, has started a romantic relationship with her former brother-in-law, Hunter Biden, the former vice president's younger son. Haley Biden, who was devastated when her husband Beau died after suffering from brain cancer in May 2015, is now officially a couple with Hunter, who is separated from his wife, Kathleen. The astonishing family drama caps a difficult period for the Bidens following the death of Beau. Hunter Biden, a lawyer who has 3 daughters with his estranged wife Kathleen, told Page 6 in an exclusive statement, "Haley and I are incredibly lucky to have found the love and support we have for each other in such a difficult time, and that's been obvious to the people who love us most. We've been so lucky to have family and friends who have supported us every step of the way." Former Vice President Joe Biden added that he and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, have given their blessing to this relationship. This is bizarre. I'm sorry, I think it's actually perverse. And so now I'm thinking, okay, the children of Beau and Haley Biden, and now Haley Biden might be marrying Hunter Biden, the younger brother. So what do the children call Hunter Biden? Uncle or stepdad? Is this not weird? And what do his biological children call Haley Biden? But don't worry, Joe Biden and his infinite wisdom and his 7 IQ, he thinks this is okay. I wouldn't think it's okay for a minute, but that's just me. I'm sorry. I don't even like thinking about it, be perfectly honest with you. It's all over the media. What the hell am I going to do? You know, folks, by now you know that I'm a proud member of the United States Concealed Carry Association. Now, they provide industry-leading education, training, and self-defense insurance for responsible gun owners. And while they want to make sure you're protected legally and financially should you ever have to pull the trigger, they also want to arm you with the most effective tool they know for self-defense. So last month, the USCCA bought 10 of my listeners a brand new Kimber. Now this month, they want you to pick your own gun. So they're giving you 10 chances to win $1,500 to buy the gun of your own dreams. Now, which gun is at the top of your bucket list? A brand new AR-15? I've got an AR-15. A custom 1911? Think hard, because any gun you've been dreaming about could be yours, thanks to my friends over at the USCCA. I've got a .357 Magnum, titanium. I've got a .38 Special. Yeah, I like pistols. And that's just the beginning. You can get those too, you know. Think hard, because any gun you've been dreaming about could be yours, thanks to my friends over at the USCCA. Just visit defendthem.com to enter for free today. There's absolutely no restrictions. You can pick any gun, any brand, and any caliber you want. Don't miss out on your best chance to take home the gun of your dreams. Just go to defendthem.com right now to get your name on the entry list. That's defendthem.com. You've nothing to lose. There's no risk. It's a wonderful thing. Defendthem.com. I don't want Skype. Why the hell did I hit Skype? Elisha, Fort Worth, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
Hi, Mr. Levin. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Yes.
I was wondering, well, first of all, I wanted to give you my condolences. It sounds like the loss of your friend is still impacting you as it would anybody.
Look, we were friends. We weren't bosom buddies, but we were friends, and he would call me often. As a matter of fact, when he had legal things, he was asking my advice. But look, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. And look, you know what? You know what his life shows? And in a very short period of time, you can have an enormous impact.
Right.
That's what it shows to me. Anyway, you go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I was wondering what your opinion was. I was kind of basking in the glow of the good speech that President Trump gave last night, and on the way home I was listening to your show, and I, too, am concerned about increasing our national debt. So that is a very true concern here. But I know that the forum last night for his speech was a time for him to set forth what he envisions for our country, what he wants for our country.
I think he did that.
Right, and I do too. And I know it was not the time for him to set out any particulars on his plans on how we're going to do these things, how we're going to pay for these things. But I just can't envision him, with him being as successful of a businessman as he is, I can't envision him just being okay with us being totally in debt and just getting deeper and deeper.
Well, look, maybe you can't and maybe I can't, but he hasn't said anything about it.
Right. Well, do you think that he's...
As a matter of fact, on Social Security and Medicare, he says, I'm not touching those. Now, nobody wants to touch it for people who have relied on it and are relying on it today and need it. But, you know, if you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 47 and a half years old, and it may not be there for you or it's going to be in a critical condition, it's irresponsible for all these politicians. I don't care if it's the president, the Democrats, the Republicans, whomever, to pretend it doesn't exist. And we can keep saying, I can't imagine he wouldn't. I can't imagine they wouldn't. You don't have to imagine. They're not.
Right. Well, my question to you would, I know...
No, but you're not following me. You're moving too fast. I said... We have a massive problem with our debt. We have a massive problem with our entitlements. I want the president to be successful, particularly on the issues that I agree with him on. That's not my point. My point is the president, The Republican leadership, the Democrat leadership, the media, they're all blowing past this. And you can't keep blowing past this.
Right. And I do agree with you on that. Someone needs to sit down and start telling the American people how we're going to do these things that he wants to do, how we're going to correct the things in the past that have gotten us to this point. But really my question to you was, has there been any mention from his group about maybe using like some of the money from our allies? He was talking about, how the money's starting to flow in.
Our allies don't have enough money to bail us out. I don't understand. Our allies to do what? They can barely sustain their own situations.
Right.
So our allies should give us money to pay for infrastructure here?
Right. So if he's going to cut...
No, thanks for your call. It's not right. Right. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Gustavo, Glendora, California, on the Levin app. How are you?
I am fine, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to share a thought with you that I've had quite a bit of trouble wrapping my head around the last 24, well, not even 24 hours.
All right.
And that is certainly one of us would be humbled and honored to be mentioned or given a recognition from Congress or the president or someone officially like that. But when you think about it, you had this young lady there last night whose husband had paid the ultimate price for freedom, and she had in front of her in this great hall of the House of Representatives all three branches of government fully represented there, and they were honoring her. It was, I don't know how her head didn't explode. It's just, it's just humbling, and I really hope folks take it to heart what all that really, really means.
Mm-hmm. No, very well said, Gustavo. Very, very well said. I agree with you completely. Thank you. Let us go to Carlos, Miami, Florida, Sirius Satellite. How are you? Yes, Carlos, go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alan, New Jersey, WABC, go.
Hey, Mark, just it's a great honor to speak to you. Just an honor. I've got a situation that maybe you could advise me how to approach this. A friend of mine is giving a seminar on how to teach activists how not to get burned out. Now, I really have no clue how to even...
Liberal activists or conservative activists?
Liberal activists. And I am not a liberal at all, and the reason why she's even talking to me about this is that she's asked me to possibly speak in front of this group on the other side on why we think the way we do and why we feel the way we do. And I'm like, do I need to come armed? I mean, I feel like I'm being put into the, it's just it's very odd for me.
Well, it sounds like a setup because these are ideologues. Doesn't sound like they're really open to being engaged or having a discussion. So be very, very careful you're not being set up.
Yeah, I agree.
But now, that said, I'm going to send you a copy of Plunder and Deceit. If you read that book, you'll be armed with every persuasive argument imaginable, or at least that I could imagine. So don't hang up. We'll send you that. Don't hang up. Let's go to Ivan, Kansas City, Missouri, the great KCMO. Go.
What's going on? I really listened to this station earlier in the morning because they're a lot more open-minded versus at nighttime.
Well, apparently you're listening now because you called me up.
I am.
So you're a glutton for punishment.
You have great points, but sometimes I think they're narrow. But because I believe that...
Why? Liberty's not narrow. Liberty is a big deal.
It's an extremely big deal, especially in the United States of America, the greatest country on earth.
Amen. So liberty is not narrow.
And I agree to that point. But when Trump stated the Jewish shooting, he stated, okay, it happened in Kansas City, which that was false. It happened in Olathe.
Whoa. What Jewish kid in Kansas City was false? What are you talking about?
The Jewish shooting, when it was the guy shot two people at the bar because it was supposed to be a terror. Then Trump got on there and said, yeah, we want to shout out to Kansas City and we're not going to have this hate crime. That did not happen in Kansas City. I hate that he said Kansas City, which is primarily all black, and Olathe is primarily
Kansas
all
City.
white.
Listen, I have friends who live in Kansas City. Well, what are you trying to get at?
You guys are praising the devil and the dread.
First of all, I'm not you guys. I'm a person. So what are you talking about?
You're giving him praise for it, and what has he accomplished?
What do you mean, what has he accomplished, man? He's been there 5 or 6 weeks. He's not a dictator. Yeah. What do you think, he's Obama with a pen and a phone? You think he's going to violate? Hold on now. You think he wants to violate the treaty clause of the Constitution and cut deals on the side, secret deals? You know, you say, oh, you're narrow-minded. No, pal, you're the one who's the ideologue. This man's been in office 5 or 6 weeks. The Senate has, the Democrats have done everything they can to block his appointments to the cabinet positions and so forth. The Democrats are like radicals throwing logs in front of the railroads. The media is out to destroy this guy. And you say, what's he done in 5 or 6 weeks? He's the president. He's not a dictator.
Well, what is it? You
didn't hear a damn thing I said. You're talking over me while I'm answering your question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to repeat myself.
I was listening. I thought you were finished, so I was.
Go ahead, quickly, because I'm running out of time.
Okay, what did you mean when the guy made the last statement and said, how does a person get burned out by being an activist? Then you yourself, you saying you're for this, for the people, but you distinctly made a distinguish between certain parties. Why did you respond to that?
No, I don't like liberals because they're out to destroy my country.
Fair enough, but I kind of prove.
I don't believe in fundamental transformation. Not in America. You can fundamentally transform, North Korea, China, Russia, whatever, but not in America. We're a free people. Keep listening, Ivan, and call me back. I'm up against it right now, okay?
You have a good day, sir.
All right, you too. And we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Very much have enjoyed this show with you folks. I hope you have as well. You never think, boy, I'm lucky my car broke down, right? But you are lucky if it happens during the manufacturer's warranty and the repairs are covered. What happens after the warranty expires? Don't get stuck paying thousands of dollars for a major repair. Get extended coverage like we did for our Camaro from CarShield.com. A new engine or new transmission could cost over $5,000. Even a simple repair to a sensor can cost over $1,000. CarShield makes the whole process easy. You select your favorite mechanic or get the work done at the dealership. There's no checks in the mail stuff or waiting for a reimbursement. CarShield gets the mechanic paid directly. CarShield's administrators even provide 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is in the shop. It doesn't get any better than this. If your car is 3 to 12 years old, it doesn't mean you have to pay high repair bills. Get the ultimate protection against repair costs before it's too late. Call 800-589-7090. You might want to write it down. That's not an easy number. 800-587-7090. And mention code Levin. Code Levin, so you can get 10% off. Code Levin. Or you can go to carshield.com, and use code Levin, Levin, to save 10%. It's that simple. Carshield.com, code Levin, or 800-587-7090, code Levin. You definitely want to do this. We did it with our Camaro. It's a 2010. I think it was the first version off the assembly line. We love the car, and of course the warranty ran out. So now we have our CarShield warranty. Okay, let's take the call, shall we? John, Fargo, North Dakota, the great WZGF, the flag. Go.
Thanks very much for taking my call. You're a true patriot. Really, I love your show all the time.
Thank you.
if you recall, then President Trump, when he was still campaigning, had the words with a reporter that said, "Don't call them anchor babies," and he listened to the guy and said, "No, they're anchor babies." And now all of a sudden, he's taking a back seat like you've been talking about, and compromising, instead of wanting to see to it that these dreamers who are now in their 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, they're not little children anymore, being separated by their mommies and daddies, and I just wanted to know what your feelings were on that.
Well, my feelings are we're going to know in the next 6, 8, 10, 9 months where we stand on this stuff. There's a number of areas of concern. I think the speech was very uniting. I thought it was an excellent speech, even though I have my disagreements on a couple of these issues that I spoke at length during the course of the program. But as they say, the proof is in the pudding, and time will tell. And I think he's going to have to knock a few heads together in Congress and get more involved in the legislative process, which is going to be tough with Reince Priebus since he likes all those people. We're going to see. It'll play out. It's early yet. I'm hopeful in some respects. I'm concerned in others. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. And we have a great Levin TV for you right now. Check it out in 2 minutes. And I'll see you right here tomorrow on the radio. God bless you.